If you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by portrait photography, or just at a loss of what to focus on to take you to that next level, then come hang with me. I help guide portrait photographers just like you to stay clear and sharp in camera and with your goals. I'm your host, photographer, educator, and weirdly positive mama for Emily Supio. And this is the Stay Focused podcast. Photography advice to help you stay focused. Well, hey there. Welcome to the Stay Focused podcast. I'm your host, Emily Supio, and I am so grateful that you are all here today and that you chose to press play on this podcast. I know that there are so many options out there when it comes to learning photography, and I think you made a great choice today. Now, you know when you are out shooting, and you take some really great pictures. Maybe you're shooting your kids, or maybe you're even shooting a session or starting to take on clients. And your pictures look really pretty. They look great, right? But there's always those times when if people were to see the behind the scene moments, they would think a little bit different. I remember one time I was out in the desert. It was a desert trail and I was shooting my girls. And I had this idea in my head for like a wintertime shoot. I was going to transform it inside of Photoshop, and I had them in winter jackets and scarves and hats, and it looked kind of silly. It was kind of comical in the desert, but I knew these areas where it was really almost like pine trees. So I knew I could kind of recreate it. Well, I got my girls all situated and I started to pull back. Like I looked at my camera and I started to kind of walk back. And well, since I was in the desert, I wasn't paying attention to all of the cactuses that were all around me in the desert. And I backed right up into a huge cactus and had thorns, well, all over the backside of me. It wasn't really the best behind the scene moment, but the pictures looked really good. And on today's episode, the episode that you're going to see today and hear today, see if you're on YouTube, hear if you're on like Spotify or Instagram right now, or not Instagram, but iTunes right now, what you're going to see, it looks like a great episode, or it sounds like a great episode, but behind the scenes, I had some major hiccups on today's episode. Starting with my power went out halfway in between the interview with Kristine Herman. Kristine will be on in just a minute. But more than that, half of my video recording did not record. Luckily, the audio recorded. So if you're watching on YouTube today, you're going to see a little bit of hiccups. If you're listening, you might notice a few hiccups too. But the behind the scenes, man, it just didn't work out the way I wanted. And maybe that was because I'm working with fellow podcaster Kristine Herman on the show today. She is a hybrid wedding photographer who has been at it for over 8 years. And she shares with you all kinds of information. We go through a rapid fire Q&A where you learn a little bit more about Kristine and how you can get started in film and hybrid photography and wedding photography. We just talk about it all. So get ready. You're going to absolutely love this episode that behind the scenes wasn't as pretty as it is to your ears today. Are you looking to start learning your camera? Come join me today in a free 1-hour online masterclass, the 4-step framework to confidently shooting beautiful portraits. In it, I break down my 4-step framework that I teach inside my premium programs and community so that you can get started understanding your camera and taking pictures you love. You can register at cozyclicks.com/framework. You'll also find this link directly in the show notes or in the description wherever you are listening to this podcast today. All right, you guys, I have Kristine Herman on the show with us today. Hi, Kristine.
Hi, Emily. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you and your time today, Kristine. And I'm going to start the show doing something a little different with you. So I hope you're prepared. And I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but it shouldn't be too hard. I am going to introduce you by asking you a series of questions. I don't want you to think too hard about them. I just want to
Okay.
get you to give me your first thought, whatever pops into your head, 1 or 2 words. So it doesn't have to be super lengthy, okay?
All right.
We'll have fun with this. We'll see how it goes, you guys.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, Kristine, how long have you been a photographer?
8 years.
8 years. How long have you been in business?
For 7 years.
Ooh, I like that answer. What was your first camera?
It was a old Canon, is it just like a Mark II, or is like the regular Canon one before that? So really
Okay.
old.
Okay. And what camera do you use now?
I use a couple different ones. So I have a Sony A7 III, Contax 645, and yeah, those are my main two.
And what's your go-to lens?
A 50 1.2.
All right. And what type of photography do you shoot the most?
Wedding photography.
Wedding photography. And if you could shoot anybody, dead or alive, who would you pick?
Oh my gosh. Who would I pick?
Don't think too hard about it.
I know.
Who's popping in your head?
I'm like, who do I want to shoot? This one's hard. Who do I do? Let's say Cameron Diaz.
Oh, she's pretty. Yes. That's a good choice. Good choice. And then Kristine, finally, last one. Anything unusual or unique about you that you can share in just a couple words?
Before I was a photographer, I was a collegiate coach and basketball player.
Ooh, what was your or what was the college?
So I played at Florida Gulf Coast University, then at Cal State Bakersfield, and then coached at San Jose State.
Ah, that is fun. How neat. So, Kristine, I'm guessing you're pretty tall. We can't really tell based on your, how tall are you?
5'10", so that really helps with photography.
That's cool. Well, thank you for kind of playing our little introduction here. So, hopefully for those of you listening, if you didn't know who Kristine was, now you know a little bit about her at least. So, Kristine, I know that you are a hybrid photographer. We didn't really touch on that right there, but in more than 1 or 2 words, can you go into a little more detail about what it is to be a hybrid photographer?
Yes. So what basically hybrid photography means is I shoot 2 different mediums. So I shoot digital photography and film photography. So during the day, when I talked about like my 2 main cameras, I'll always have a film camera and a digital one on me. And then when I give my galleries back, they're mixed with film and digital.
So do your clients even know what the difference is? Like, do they look through and they're like, oh, here's the film, here's the digital, or it's just mixed?
Yeah, so it's just mixed. And basically, like, I don't like sell. I'm like, I'm shooting film and digital. A lot of clients come to me and they're like, I love your look. I love what that look is. It just really brings me in. I'm like, well, that's film that you're seeing, because a lot of that's on my website. So usually it's just the look of it that people love, and then I mix it in, and a lot of them can't really tell the difference.
They don't even know. That was my next question. That's what I was going to ask you, is do people know, like, oh, she's the film photographer? But I guess as photographers, we kind of feel like everybody knows everything about photography when really they don't. Right? So
yes.
So I know, Kristine, you said in our little Q&A in the beginning that you shoot weddings. That's what you shoot most.
Yes.
Can you give, so the people that are listening right now, I know most people probably aren't in full-time wedding businesses right now. I know most people that listen to the show are in the newer stages of their photography journey. So with that said, for those people that are listening right now that are thinking, okay, wedding photography, that sounds interesting. How do you get started in that, or what do you recommend them doing if they're just in those stages of, this might be fun?
Yeah. So I know, like, when I started, a lot of when I was like, where do I even start? I really started with an education. I was like, I'm going to find a photographer I love who I'm going to learn from. And that actually was Jasmine Starr. She did a lot of wedding boot camps. So I learned a lot from the beginning. I would come home from work and just research wedding photography. So first was like just getting the ideas from another educator who you look up to, who you want to emulate. And then from there, really trying to find a community within wedding photography. There are so many opportunities to work for people. I wouldn't say going straight to second shooting, but assisting other photographers. Photographers always need assistance. So just starting even on Instagram, following a lot of wedding photographers, trying to start that conversation with them slowly here and there to build a relationship is really helpful.
Yeah. And you know what? I think a lot of people, when they start photography and they start their journey, they think of it as like being a solopreneur or a solo hobby, something they do on their own and they can do on their own. But the magic really happens when you start working with other photographers, right? When you build that community, when you start learning from other people. So I love that you said that. That's really from the beginning what you guys should be doing is, connecting with those people. And that might be just, looking on Facebook, or even, I know it's scary, but just reaching out to someone who inspires you that's in your area and say, hey, can I, take you to coffee, or can I just hang out with you at a wedding? And maybe they'll say no, maybe they'll say yes though too. So you never know. So let's say we've reached out into a community, you've gotten some, great ideas from people, and now you're into maybe second shooting or maybe first shooting a wedding. What are your big tips for these new wedding photographers that are just starting to shoot their own weddings?
Man, I remember like my first wedding I ever shot, I did it for free. It was just like an opportunity I got, and I was like, yes, it was a friend of a friend. I remember coming home from that wedding and crying because I thought I ruined their wedding photos. I was like, this is awful. They ended up loving it. I was just being absolutely in my head about it. So I think the first thing really is learning your settings and like how you want to shoot. The wedding day is so many aspects. So you have like getting ready, family photos, you have portraits, you have documentary style. So all these moments are so different with how you're going to shoot the day, and really being prepared beforehand and learning how to use your flash, your camera, just how to get, sending out a questionnaire to your clients so you can get to know them, the family list, things beforehand. So on the wedding day, you are prepped, ready to go to shoot the wedding, because it's just, once the day starts, it is a whirlwind.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, weddings are a lot. So
yeah, I hope you guys got that all. And you said this in like a half a breath, Kristine, but the first thing that you said that they should know, I think is super important. And I don't even know if you gave it second thought either, but you said, you know what, you got to know manual mode. You got to know the how-to of your camera. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of new photographers make, is that they get their camera and they want to be a professional, maybe a professional wedding photographer, family photographer, senior portraits, whatever, right? And you go out there and you don't really understand the camera yet. You don't understand your settings or light or flash or whatever type of photography it is that you want to do. Just reeling it right back into those very basics and fundamentals is learning that camera and learning. And even going back to Kristine, when you said you started learning from Jasmine Starr, if you rewound back even farther, so let's go back in history a little bit more, before you were even like, yeah, I want to learn how to shoot weddings. How did you go about even learning to use your camera?
Yeah, so I was actually one of those photographers that were into really landscape back in the Instagram days, where everyone was iPhone only and traveling all up and down the Pacific Northwest, just taking landscape photography. So that's where I had a lot of practice with my camera. But I always, how I started with that was like learning, of course, from an online class. I would go out and I would shoot, and I was always wondering why my images weren't looking like how I wanted. I was like, okay, I know I'm doing the settings right, but really not just with manual mode, but actually understanding your surroundings and light, and really, really pushed me to become a better photographer, and my manual settings to actually start working with how I wanted. So there's just so many aspects within the day that really help you with your camera.
Yeah. And I think you've got to start there. And I like, every time I talk with somebody, I love to know kind of their backstory, because I think on social media, it's so easy for new photographers to get their camera and they see, people like you, and they're like, wow, she can do it. I can too. But they don't realize that you've been at it for 8 years, and you started by, with your iPhone, and you took a class before you took a class for wedding photography, you
Mhm.
took a class just to use your equipment and then to work on light, and you practice. So there's a lot of different components,
Yes.
a lot of variables that are happening, you guys. So
Mhm.
it's not that you can just get your camera and start shooting weddings right away. You've got to, come up with a plan and really understand your gear, understand the light, and then from there work on, your community and building it up from there. So I love that you were open enough to say all that to us today
Yes,
too,
yeah, I
Kristine.
know. It is a process, I will say,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, it definitely is. And I think nowadays, with social media and Instagram, it just looks like it's so easy for everybody. And I think it makes a lot of people feel not good enough or like they can't get to that point ever. And they don't ever see that backstory of, what it took me all of this time and all of these years and all of these classes and all of these connections and all of this community and all of this
Yep.
everything, right?
Mhm.
Oh, so speaking of community, Kristine, you and I are actually a part of a community of photographers, photography
Yes.
educators that have come together for the creative collaboration.
Yes.
If you guys haven't heard, I've been talking about this all month on the podcast, but it is such a great opportunity for you guys. It is over 55 photography courses and resources for photographers really of any level can jump in here, of any type of photography really can jump in here. But Kristine, what is the contribution you have inside the creative collaboration this month?
Yes, so I have my mini course Fundamentals of Film, which teaches you, if you're just starting with film, how to shoot film, how to edit and make sure your images look like your digital, and just kind of start you on your journey with film photography.
I love it. Now, and again, you guys, it's not just Kristine that's in there. And, I have a course in there too. It is like unbelievable the amount
So
of
many.
education that's in there. Yeah. So
Mhm.
if you guys are interested, you can click on the link in the show notes or the description anywhere you're listening. If you're on YouTube right now or iTunes or Spotify, wherever you are, the link will be in the description so you can learn from Kristine and check out everybody that's in there. Now, if Kristine, people are like, yeah, that sounds cool, but I really just want to know more about you. Where can people find you or hang out with you or just let you know that they listened to this episode today?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Kristine Herman _. My name is with a K, so K Herman _. And then my website is KristineHerman.com.
Perfect. And again, I'm going to link up directly to her website and Instagram so you can check that out. Kristine, you have a podcast too, right?
Yes, I
What
do.
is your podcast?
So it is called Dare to Develop. I do it with another colleague, and it's all about community and how to just dare to get out of your comfort zone and be better with any type of skill within the wedding business.
I love it. So you guys, you can check her out there too. I will link up to Kristine's podcast as well. Dare to Develop. I love that name. That's really cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us today, Kristine. It was a pleasure. I really appreciate you again. And I hope you guys get out and listen to Kristine's podcast too.
Yeah, thanks so much, Emily. Love being here.
All right. So minus the little hiccups that maybe you saw, maybe you didn't, maybe you heard. Kristine gave a fantastic interview today, and I hope that you learned a little bit more about hybrid photography, what it is, what it's all about to be part of a photography community. And maybe you got some ideas on how you can get started finding people or teachers or mentors that can help you with your journey too. Now, if you're interested in her film course, it's part of the creative collaboration, and you can check that out in the description wherever you're listening to podcasts right now, or right in the show notes. It really is an awesome opportunity. If you haven't caught the episodes of the Stay Focused podcast from last week and the week before, I am talking to more of the photography educators that are part of the creative collaboration. They're sharing with you all kinds of free tips and tricks to help you get feeling better about your photography journey. So if you haven't heard those yet, go back, check out the last few episodes. I think you're really going to love them. All right, you guys, I will be back again soon. Like in the next couple days with a brand new episode. So make sure you've hit subscribe on iTunes so you don't miss any of the episodes that are coming out. But until then, here's to staying in focus in camera and with your goals. Bye, you guys.